Hi there, weight loss surgery family. My name is Rachel. I'm on my way down VSG here on YouTube and on my way down 174 on Instagram if you'd like to connect with me there. And I'm coming with you today for a weight loss journey tag. And I was tagged by Grace Gets Gastric, and I'm sure most of you are following her already, but if you're not, I really enjoy her content and I encourage you to follow or subscribe to her. And I've just been sitting here probably for the last 30 minutes waiting to push the start button. I think most people have been really excited about this video and been raring to do it, and it was real easy for them. But my weight loss journey is not something I enjoy talking about. It's really difficult for me for lots of reasons. And as hard as it is, I thought it was important. Like I've said before, I don't think anything happens by coincidence. And so when I was tagged, I thought it was an important step in my journey. Felt like God was trying to give me a little push in the right direction. And I thought, if I'm not going to be honest and open with our group here, then I shouldn't even be here. And so I'm going to share some things with you that I've never openly admitted. I've never said some of these things out loud. But that's just the process. That's just the place that I'm at, and so let's just jump into it. The first question is, when did I start gaining weight? And I was born about a little more than a month early. My mom had severe pancreatitis, and even though I was born over a month early, I almost weighed 7 pounds, and so that's a really large child to be born so premature. And the first time that my dad held me in his arms right after I was born, he held me there and he said, "Rachel, I just pray that you're never fat like me, that you never have to struggle with your weight like I do." And that's the first thing he ever said to me. And he sincerely meant it, and he's repeated that story to me lots of times over the years. And my weight took off from there, from birth. And I think it was due in large part to coming from a family that had a lack of knowledge about nutrition, genetics, and that my family uses food for love. And that combination just pretty much set me up for a life sentence of obesity. So that pretty much answers that question. The next question asks if I am an emotional eater. And I am. It mainly centers around stress and smiles, either one of those occasions. A lot of people talk about boredom eating, I've heard in the videos, but my entire childhood we were never allowed to be bored. If we were bored, then we'd have to go work on the farm, we'd have to go take care of the pigs or the cows or work in the garden. And so I was just raised in an environment where boredom wasn't an option. And so a lot of people don't believe me, but I can honestly say I have never experienced boredom. I don't know what that is. So I definitely don't boredom eat. When I'm super unhappy or mad, I don't eat. Really, but if I'm stressed, like for instance this week, I lost my keys. I was running behind schedule for an appointment, and I was searching all around the house and just in the middle of this frantic search, I just go to the cabinet and I get a huge handful of nuts, and I start eating the nuts as I walk around the house looking for the keys. And halfway through, I was like, what am I doing? But it was just like so calming and soothing, like bringing me back down to try to find my keys. And I did, and I went to the appointment. But then I was feeling guilty and thinking about it the whole time, about how I wasn't hungry and I misused food and I only used it for stress. And just to be perfectly honest, since I was stressed, I've been feeling stressed about making this particular video. I had been fasting for 84 hours, and I just a while ago went to the cabinet and got a Power Crunch bar, and I just quickly ate it. And I was scheduled to be fasting until in the morning, but it wasn't out of hunger. At this point, when you get to this point in fasting, you don't even feel hungry. It's just mind over matter. And my mind took over and my stress took over, and I ate when it wasn't necessary. So stress is a big one. And then the last example that really came to mind was, since my child has medical needs, he's been in the hospital more time than he's been at home. And particularly, I think back to when he was in the NICU. And for the first 6 months of his life when he was in the NICU, you could be back in the NICU, but you couldn't have food back there. And so I would put M&Ms down in my pocket, and I would just eat not a normal size bag of M&Ms, but the largest size M&M bag that you can buy that would fit into my pocket. And I would just eat them nonstop, just eat them. And it was just all about the stress that I was feeling and how I was having difficulty coping with it. So that's what I did. And then when I say smiles, I just think that I've been raised where every occasion calls for food. And so I developed this thing to where I really like hosting and throwing big parties. I like every holiday, and I feel like that's one thing that I'm good at. And so as much as I don't want food to be my love language, it has been passed down, and I am guilty of that somewhat. And I just, during all those happy times, I'm just ready to eat, and I'm ready to share my food with other people. And Shrinking Violet DS, she mentioned that that's her artistic outlet, and I never heard it put like that, but that would definitely apply to me. So anyways, the next question, when did you start dieting? I didn't realize I was different or realize what weight really was until I was 5 years old. When I was 5 years old, I came down with a severe stomach virus. I lost a considerable amount of weight, and the first time we got together after that at a family function, my big family put me in the center of the room and twirled me around, and they just all started congratulating me and applauding me for losing weight. And it was so strange that, initially I felt like they were applauding that I was sick, it just was so strange. But then I came to realize that it was all because I was too big and they all wanted me to be smaller, and that would make them happier. So at 5 years old, I started reducing the candy that I was eating, the sweets that we would have around, the pop, just because I saw on TV that they said, pop and candy is what you should eliminate. And I was definitely guilty of consuming too much of those things. It was just readily available. Next, I don't know if any of you have read the book My Fat Dad, but I really relate in that book a lot because, like I mentioned before, my dad had always been obese, and he went on every fad diet, every diet you could imagine. He was on a diet more than he wasn't, and over time I just got to where I would try to support or encourage or do whatever he was doing. And that's like one of the big things that we bonded over. And so I pretty much dabbled in every diet you could imagine. But the first time I saw real success, and it kind of my parents thought got out of control. I was 12 years old, and I heard on TV what many of you have probably heard, that fat makes you fat. So I decided to go on a no-fat diet. But mind you, I didn't know anything about nutrition. And so all I knew is that I had heard that rice doesn't have any fat in it. And so for 6 months, I ate nothing but rice. The only thing I would even put on the rice was soy sauce or chicken flavored seasoning, both of which that just had sodium in it. And over 6 months, at the age of 12, I went from a weight of 231 to 191. And my parents, after they saw that over 6 months that I wouldn't eat anything else for any meals, they decided they were going to force me to go to the doctor. And they took me to the doctor, which is something they just never did. And they took me to the doctor, and they told the doctor what I was doing, and he instructed me to stop immediately or else. And so with the pressure of the medical community and my parents, I did stop that diet. But naturally I just started gaining weight back because I just went crazy eating other things. So that's where it went. My weight continued to yo-yo from there on. I went on continued diets and things, but those are my earliest. That's when I started dieting. Am I on a specific diet now? Yes. It all sort of started with my surgeon and the nutritionist setting the guidelines. They recommended 1,000 calories, 100 plus grams of protein, and 50 total carbs. And they never mentioned anything about fat. And so as time went on over the last year, probably about 6 months ago is what I'm talking about. So for that time period, I'd been sticking to those guidelines. And lots of people kept on asking, like, are you keto? Are you keto? Is this a keto diet? And I was like, no way. I was like, I'm not doing anything crazy, nothing crazy like that. And then probably about January or February, I decided to look up, hey, what is keto? And I looked at the macros, and I have recorded everything in my fitness pal, and I looked at my macros, and they were right. I have been keto without knowing it basically since the very beginning. And I feel really, really healthy, and I feel really good doing the keto diet. I just had never wanted to really put a label on it, I guess. But now that I understand it more, I'm happy to say and happy to help people if they ask me what a keto diet is and what I eat. And so that is my specific diet. And let's see here. The next question is, have I cut out any foods? From the beginning, I've cut out sugar. I know that there might be some hidden sugar grams in some things, but all sugar on purpose I cut out and try not to eat. I don't try to make packaged food be the majority of my diet. So sugar, which specifically goes along with cereal, prior to vertical sleeve gastrectomy surgery, I would say I definitely had a problem with cereal. I would never just eat one bowl. I'd be more likely to eat nearly the entire box. So cereal's been an issue. I have had some cereal a couple times, and both times it's been a disaster. So anyways, really need to stay away from sugar, and I need to stay away from cereal. Recently I've noticed that I don't have great portion control when it comes to popcorn or nuts. Nuts just have so many calories for such a small amount, and I measure out an ounce, and that never is satisfying to me at all. And so anyways, both those two things I can't honestly say I've cut them out now, but it would be good if I did. and I cut them out for a week here and a week there, but I always came back to them. So that's where I'm at on that. So here's the big question to me. Is my past weight loss, have I had success with weight loss? What does it look like? And as I was describing earlier, as a child and through my adolescence, I would lose 20 to 50 pounds and then gain it weight, and I would do it all really quickly. And when I went to college, I gained about, looking back on it, I can say I gained about 20 pounds a year, and I was more into fun than I was health and fitness, and so it just wasn't good. But whenever I got engaged, I weighed around 300 pounds, and that was I got engaged in January of 2005, and we got married in July of 2005, and over that 6-month time period, during that happy time, it was all smiles and food, and I gained to 325 pounds. I was always in deep denial about it, and so the night before my wedding, my mom said, let's try on your dress and see if we need to steam it out on any places to make sure everything is good. And I'm just thankful that my mom did that, because I couldn't zip up my dress the night before my wedding. I've never told anyone that, but my mom stayed up all night long and let my wedding dress out so that I could walk down the aisle the next day. So that really shook me. It was really an eye-opener, and I went on a strict calorie counting diet because I'd learned, I saw Good Morning America, and they told me that a pound equals 3,500 calories, and you should minus that many calories to lose weight. And so that was the first time I ever learned what a calorie was, and started, investigating that and counting calories. And so I lost 100 pounds doing that, and pretty quickly I gained it all back. Within 2 years, I gained it all back. And at that point, we were really thinking about starting a family and having children. We wanted to have a family while we were younger, and we were having problems with fertility. So I went to the doctor, and my obstetrician gynecologist, she just recommended that I should have lap band surgery. She said, hey, I know a guy that does it. It's outpatient, really no big deal. You should go and have it done. And just nonchalantly as that, I never did any research, never read a book about it, never watched a video, never did anything. I just made an appointment with this doctor. I went and saw him. This surgeon was very obese himself. That should have been my first red flag, but I was young and dumb. I guess I was about 22 or 23, and I saw the surgeon for about 5 minutes. He said, yeah, you're young and healthy, you don't have any health problems. You get this lap band, you'll never have another problem. You'll lose weight, have a baby, you'll be fine. He said, you just can't have a baby the first year, and I want you to be less than 300 pounds before you get pregnant. And I weighed 363 the day I had lap band surgery. So that's the thing, is I have never told anyone that I had lap band surgery. I didn't want to tell any of my family. I didn't even want to tell my husband. But we had been saving to buy a house, and we had $25,000, and he gave me that money to have lap band surgery because our insurance wouldn't cover it. And so I took that money. I went to the hospital. I called in sick to work on a Thursday and a Friday, and I had that surgery. I went home the same afternoon, and went back to work on Monday, and I acted like nothing had ever happened. And so they placed the lap band, and they don't put any fluid in it or anything. My surgeon didn't, for it was 120 days. So 4 months down the line, I go to the surgeon's office, and he has the nurse. He doesn't even bother to come in and see me. He has the nurse put some fluid in. I'm like, how much fluid do you put in? She's like, we don't tell our patients that information. We want you to eat intuitively. And so just eat whatever you want, but just eat until you get full. And if you're not feeling full, then in 3 or 4 months, we'll add some more fluids. So over this time period, I hadn't lost any weight. Of course, when the band's placed, it's just there, but you don't feel anything. And so I wasn't losing any weight, and had, I was private pay, had no instructions or anything. I was just young and dumb. And they put the first shot of fluid in my band, and I didn't notice anything. I just continued to eat, I went back again, and the nurse put another shot of fluid in, and I said, can I talk to the doctor for a minute? And so she sends the surgeon in, and he comes, he waddles in, and he talks to me for a minute, and I ask, a list of questions that I had, nothing, too crazy. And he walks out of the room, and he shuts the door, and there's a vent at the bottom of the door, and I can hear real clearly everything that he is saying. And he says, I'm so sick and tired of this job. He's like, I'm so sick and tired of all these patients thinking I'm a magician and not a surgeon. He said, there's a big difference. And the nurse starts laughing, and I just hated that, and I never went back again to that doctor. I never went back. But you run into the problem of no doctor wants to accept you once you leave an office, like they want you to stay with your surgery center. And so, anyways, I did start losing weight after that second shot of fluid. I lost about 120 pounds with the lap band. I got pregnant, and I got very, very sick. I had very serious morning sickness. I couldn't keep anything down. And I didn't want to go to see my surgeon. My OBGYN didn't know anything about the lap band. And during one of my extreme vomiting episodes, I slipped the band. The band slipped up to my esophagus. I did manage to see another doctor who let the fluid out, but the band never would go back down into place. And so it was stuck there. It kind of wiggled around on my esophagus. Sometimes it would be in the upper part and cause extreme acid reflux. It'd just be kind of like holding a little pool of reflux up there. But for the last 10 years, that's what I've been dealing with. And I never told anyone, never talk about it, never complain about any of it. And it was just like I just tried to act like it never happened, because I wasted all that money, and I didn't have the band. You can't put more fluid in it when it's stuck up around your esophagus. We didn't have the money to go and for me to get the band fixed. It just the bottom line is if you're thinking about getting a band at one of the last surgical centers that are crazy enough to place it, I just recommend you go to the pet store and you get a muzzle, because it'd be easier to put a muzzle around your face where you could stick a little straw in, you could, sip on something, you could put a little bite in, you could chew on it, so that at least it wouldn't cost $25,000, and it wouldn't be doing major damage inside your body and causing acid reflux and all the other million problems that the lap band causes. But anyways, I just, like I was saying, just try to act like that never happened. And so, that got me to, I was just happy that whenever we found out about my son and me needing to lose weight, because after the lap band, after all the fluid was gone and I was back at ground zero, I just started gaining weight again like crazy, and I gained back to 326. And like I said, that's when we found out that my son had a fibrotic liver, and he needed, if he advanced to be on the transplant list, I was his match. But you can't donate unless you have a BMI of 25, less than 25, and my BMI was 46 at the time. So, anyways, I was just happy that I found Dr. Villirreal. He was experienced with removing bands, and then he gave me a vertical sleeve. And I'm just very thankful that this is completely different. I don't even call it a revision because it was like I'd had nothing before. And I also don't think, hindsight's 20/20, but I think that it's crazy to put a band on someone, but you have no physiological change. If you're going to give someone a band, you should at least probably give them a whole endless supply of diet pills or something, so they have less hunger and they're not, just trying to rely completely on restriction, which is a disaster. I believe the reason that RNY, DS, VSG are successful is all hormonal changes. I believe it has very little to do with restriction. I'm not even a year out, and I can eat fairly normally, I would say, and but I just don't have those intense cravings and the desire to eat like I did before. But anyways, I appreciate being able to share that with all of you. The next thing is my workout plan. I have did power walking since I had surgery, a 5K 5 days a week. That's what I've done. I was just talking recently in my videos how that's not challenging me anymore, and I need to start working on running a mile. So that's what I'm gonna do. And I got these resistant bands for my birthday from a friend, and I'm gonna incorporate some of them too, just for some strength training. Do I have a favorite diet? 6 months ago, I would have said it was counting calories in, calories out, but I wouldn't say that anymore. Excuse me. I would say after reading Dr. Fung's The Obesity Code and his complete guide to therapeutic fasting, I believe all of the scientific research and his results, they speak for themselves. So I believe in the keto feasting and then the therapeutic fasting. And I think it's sustainable. I think that it cures all kinds of diseases, and I would recommend it to anyone. And so it's definitely my favorite. It feels the most natural to me, and that's what I plan to continue. What are my goals for weight loss? The requirements, like I said, to be a liver donor are to have a BMI of less than 25, and so that is my goal. It's all about the BMI. So my high weight, like I said, was 363 with a BMI of 51, and to be a liver donor, I'd have to weigh 179 pounds, and that would give me a BMI of 24.98. That would mean I need to lose a total of 184 pounds. My surgery weight was 319, so that would mean since surgery I would have to lose 140 pounds. But ideally, I would like to give myself at least a 5-pound wiggle room because, you wake up, from day to day. I don't want to go to the doctor in the afternoon and all of a sudden not qualify as a liver donor. And the liver holds so much fat that they're very strict about the requirements to be a liver donor. And so my goal weight is 174 pounds, and that would mean since pre-op, which was 1 week before surgery, I weighed 326, and so I would need to lose 152 pounds. And yesterday I weighed 182 pounds, and so I'm about 8 pounds away from that. And it seems crazy to say. I never ever in my life have said I have 10 pounds or less to lose. It doesn't seem real now, and I struggle with that a lot. If there wasn't any such thing as a scale, if I never had a scale to sit on, to stand on, if I just look down at my body, I would say that I weigh in the 250s. That's where I would feel I would be at, but still trying to adjust there. All different kinds of mental things to work through. And that brings me to the next question. Number 10 is, are you a food addict? And in typical addict style, I have denied that to be true my entire life. It was only until probably the last 7 or 8 months that I finally admitted, yes, I am a food addict. And you've just got to think if you check off these boxes. So I just kind of looked up, I just Googled for a second, what are some food addict behaviors? I'd already come to the acceptance in my mind, but before I talk to you, I wanted to have something to back it up. But it said, do you hide food? Yeah, I did that. Hoard food? Yeah. Lie about food? Yeah. Steal food? Yeah, I've taken food. Spend excessive amounts of money on food? Check. Ignore health problems that are related to food? Make excuses to eat food? Crave full food when you're already full. So you eat a full meal and then you still crave something else. Have guilt surrounding food. Yeah. Delay or miss out on activities so you can eat food. That was just basically like the top 10 list. And I'm guilty. I have been guilty of all of that. It's been significantly better since surgery. But I was telling y'all in a couple videos ago that when I was in Boston, we were staying with a host family, and they just, offer us any food we might want, and they had a bunch of different cereal boxes, and I got up and just started eating a bowl of every one of their different kinds of cereal, and eating at night and hiding it, and eating uncontrollably when I wasn't even hungry, it was slipping back into that food addict kind of behavior. Another example of this is during one of my clinical rotations in college, I stayed with a really close family friend. She's like a grandmother to me. She was in her 80s, and she's such a good cook, and she's so sweet. And I was working like 10 and 12-hour days and coming in late, but even at like 7 and 8 o'clock at night, she would have dinner made for me. But she didn't cook a lot, and I didn't always love what she cooked. It just wasn't all, it was, a lot of it was really healthy food that I should have learned to love. But anyways, I would take a detour and go through drive-thrus and eat all I could, and then drive out of my way to a gas station to dispose of the evidence, and then go to her house and eat a full meal. I mean, who does that? You have to be like a real addict to go out of your way and do all those things. And so I'm really embarrassed that I did that. And so that's kind of like the strategies that I'm dealing with now is, one is I try to tell myself that I can eat anything I want, but I have to put it in MyFitnessPal. And MyFitnessPal, I'm happy to be friends with anybody that's on this journey. And so I have to look at it myself, which is the hardest thing for me, to look at it myself and to be open and honest with myself, because I wanted to be in denial, before, that was the whole point. I would even hide it from myself, hide the truth from myself, and part of making excuses that was on that list. And so I do that, and then I've just started this self-help journey. For the last 10 months, I've read one book revolving around nutrition and food addiction and binge eating disorder, revolving around all of that. And so still in the beginning stages of that. I will always be a recovering food addict. I do realize that. And so I think that answers that question. And the last question, are you comfortable in your own body? The short answer is no, and that's actually the next video that I owe all of you, because I want to discuss the 2 plastic surgery consults I had, my feelings revolving around that and my body. And so I just want to close and say thank you for being here with me. Thank you for supporting me. I appreciate all of the new subscribers that I've gotten, and I prefer to call you supporters, and I just appreciate you supporters very much. And I just want to close with, remember, if you keep God on your mind and in your heart, you'll always be successful. Have a good day, guys.